Hey, guess what? We are starting up our own March Madness bracket challenge for running out the clock. If you want to be a part of it, just tweet at us, ROTC Sports. Just send us a little message there. That's it. And we'll get in touch with you then. Okay. Here's the episode. Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard Chandler burping. You know that's the sign, the signal. Here we are right now on another episode of Running Out the Clock. As always, I'm your close friend, Joseph Craven, joined by Chandler, who I mentioned earlier, joined by Keith, joined by Roe, joined by Gray Barnes. We got a full house. 5 in the same suit. Right? No. Is that a full house? No. Three in one pair. So
if we got a full house, off one. Which one of us is Aunt Becky?
Hey, it's always you.
I am the hot one, so
sure. Always you. Hey, this is March freaking Madness.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, one of the absolute top. It doesn't matter what you care about the sport. It doesn't matter what sports you enjoy. Everyone gets amped about March Madness. It's one of the top sporting events in all of sports across the planet. This is one of the most exciting times to be a sports fan and to keep up with things. Not a single one of us could be getting anything done at work on Thursday and Friday of this week because those are the best days. Can I get an amen on those starting weekend first and second round games taking up all our time? Can I get an amen on that? God, that was really good.
Somebody had some spice.
Every single one of you did that well. Every single one of you. That was incredible. Anyway,
that spice life.
In particular, we're getting this episode done because, as it turns out, perhaps our suspicions were correct. And the SEC was pretty good at basketball this year. Tough conference, heck of a conference run in general. We're going to have some episodes coming up where we'll probably talk about what this season for the conference as a whole really means for the entire conference and the importance of the overall success. But we'll get to that later on because right now we doing nothing but talking about them brackets. 7 SEC teams making the field of what is it now? Like 78 teams, it feels like.
487.
All of Division I teams make a tournament at the end of the day. Anyway, but 7 SEC teams make it. First and foremost, though, because this is running out the clock, we got to talk about the Noles for a second. Florida State, a 4 seed in the West region. A pretty solid season for the Criminals this year. I believe they lost to Duke in the ACC championship game. But Florida State made the tournament as a 4 seed. Let's get a one-word summation on how you can only guess Florida State's season must have gone, because I doubt any of you watched that much of it. Chandler, you start us off. One word.
Bunch of deadgum anti-Zionists.
That wasn't one word, but it was funny.
It was hyphenated.
Yeah, anti-Zionist is the word there in particular. You can ignore the rest of it. So. All right. Strong. Gray, you're up in alphabetical order. Hit us with it.
They did anti-Taggart. Anti-Willie Taggart.
That works.
I can appreciate that.
They were the
anti-Taggart.
All right. Keith, you're the Florida State expert on the podcast. What you got?
Okay.
Ro, round us out, sir.
Dark horse.
Oh, that sounds promising. Is it promising or?
I mean, they were good. They were good at basketball. That's a thing.
Yeah, they were quite good. No, you're absolutely right. All right. All that being said, as we mentioned earlier, we've got 7 different SEC teams that made it into the big dance. We've got Kentucky and Tennessee as 2 seeds. LSU as a 3 seed. The regular season champs, LSU as a 3 seed. Mississippi State and Auburn, the conference tournament champs, as 5 seeds. Ole Miss as an 8, and Florida comes in as a 10 seed right there. All right, let's look at these. Just kind of run through them real quick. Do we think that these seeds are the right seeds for all of these teams? Let's start with the 2s. Kentucky and Tennessee. Does that seem accurate to everybody, or does anyone here have a differing opinion on where they think these teams should have been seeded? Does anyone? Raise your hand, and I will call on you. This is class time now. Class time.
No.
It's looking like consensus is 2 seed is accurate for everyone.
I think had either Kentucky or Tennessee won the SEC tournament, that they would have been a 1 seed, but not getting it done kind of shot those hopes.
Yeah,
that's what I was seeing on some selection show specials as well.
I mean, as you all know, I am an expert in all things basketball.
That's why we have you.
Look, people,
I've even waived my fee.
It is rare that you get a college basketball expert like Keith Harkins on your podcast. So this is a big deal. It's a huge deal.
Huge.
God dang, Gary Parrish over here.
I was talking emphatically with my hands as I said that. So
some Andy Katz right here. That's where he is.
Wow, that was strong. I love it.
Dadgum Digger Phelps.
Family friendly over here.
That was a hard one.
I meant to say SOB. I went with the full B.
That's fine. With the full B. Never go full B, man.
Every now and then, even Anderson Cooper makes a mistake. You know what I'm saying? I apologize to all the families listening to our podcast.
He's the only one who never has.
Look, that Silver Fox always makes a mistake. You know he does.
Sorry, man. He doesn't. Our fact checkers are in my ear right now. They're letting me know Anderson Cooper has literally never made a mistake in his entire life. All right, Louisiana State is a 3 seed. They were the regular season champions.
Boo.
The Louisiana State basketball Bengals. The fighting Pete Maraviches.
Them Tigers.
Them Tigers made it as a 3 seed. Is this deserving to everybody? If so, let me get a yes from you all right now.
No.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Rose says a flat out no. Okay. All right. Gray had to think about it some. Gray, was there hesitation there in your assessment of Louisiana State? Or did you just want to wait till everyone had shut up before you talked?
Well, maybe a little bit of both. But, I'm polite. I don't want to interrupt any experts on the show. They probably know a lot more than I do. But
a true gentleman.
Of course, based off the wins and losses, I think, how they did in the conference, LSU is deserving of a 3 seed. But I don't know. I think they might be a little bit of fool's gold. I don't know. They had a lot of those close wins, which is a trait of a good team. But man, they had a little bit of magic that might not last. But we'll see.
Yes, that's what we're going to call it. It was their magic that helped them out.
Right, that magic.
That those Bayou Swamp rituals that
the Gator rituals.
Gator rituals, baby.
Completely legitimate. On the up and up, everything's fine.
Ro, you said a flat out no. You think LSU should not have been a 2 seed or a 3 seed?
They should not even be playing basketball right now. I don't care about their records or anything like that. Who's their coach again? What's that guy's name?
Right now, nobody, right?
Name redacted.
Yeah, right name redacted. He's also redacting a lot of statements as he's being subpoenaed by the FBI, which is a little bit different than the NCAA. But, we'll let him play anyways. Best man win, right? Best man win. Right. Who cares about rules?
Well, because it's not the kid's fault. I mean, why should we punish the student athlete? The NCAA is here to protect the student athlete.
Yeah. No, shame on me. Shame on me.
No, I totally get that. LSU under a lot of scrutiny right now. Something that we will talk about quite a bit in our next segment on the pod. But it's an interesting situation down there in old Red Stick, Louisiana. Mississippi State and Auburn are both 5 seeds, kind of similar teams in football this past year, similar teams on the basketball court in terms of what they're able to do and not do outside of Auburn themselves, making that big run in the conference tournament and winning the tournament itself. 5 seeds for the Bulldogs and whatever. Does Auburn have a specific basketball mascot? Is that the Plainsmen? Yeah, I think they're
the Plainsmen, yeah.
Plain Eagles.
Yeah.
War Tigers.
So, any disagreements with a 5 seed on these 2 teams?
I have a disagreement with Auburn. I thought since they won the SEC tournament, I feel like that should give them a bump up. And Mississippi State did not win the SEC tournament, so they're fine at a 5. I'm fine with State at a 5, but Auburn should at least be a 3. If we're gonna say LSU is a 3, you know, like shouldn't winning the tournament mean something?
Well, I think the 5 seed is what it means for Auburn, because I think Auburn, based on their metrics this season, were not all that different than what Ole Miss did. For some reason, Auburn's net ranking stayed a lot higher than Ole Miss's did, but just kind of from the eye test and their ups and downs. But I think that 5 seed was a reward for finishing the season strong. I mean, they beat Tennessee twice in the span of 8 days, and then won the SEC tournament. So I think that was their. I think they probably were coming in maybe looking at a 6 or a 7, and the 5 was kind of their reward.
Yeah, that makes sense. That I was kind of thinking that as well. You made a good point there, bringing up the whole metrics, whatever it is that they're doing this year instead of like RPI or whatever. It just, it's just a different form of RPI. It's a different name for it. But Auburn had some knocks on the resume that weren't looking too great as the season had gone on, and kind of redeemed themselves now. And I think it is a bit of a reward there. Possibly, and we'll talk about their chances in a minute here. But for Mississippi State, most projections kind of had them going in the 6 or 7 range. Does getting that 5 seed come as a surprise to you, Gray, in particular? Because, I mean, like Ro was just saying, 5 is, 5, 6, 7 range kind of all overlap a little bit, but still to get on the higher end of that, is an interesting seeding, I think. What's your take on getting that 5?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit surprising. I think that kind of goes to show what the committee was sort of looking for this year, especially with the change in the metrics from RPI to the net and quadrant 1 wins and all that new stuff that no one's ever really been able to look at. And I think with wins over teams like Wofford and Cincinnati and St. Mary's early in the season kind of get forgotten about maybe a little bit and lost. But I think those early season non-conference wins over teams like that, bumping up that net, maybe a 5 seed isn't all that off. I kind of saw them as a 6 seed.
Yeah.
But, looking at those wins, it doesn't really shock me that they moved up to a 5, looking at it that way. But I think that just kind of goes to show what the committee was looking at, especially with a lot of these non-automatic qualifier teams for mid-majors that made it, where in the past they probably wouldn't have made it in light of a Alabama or Indiana, like they were showing on the selection show. So, I think that all kind of factored into a 5 seed.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. Mississippi State, I believe, ended the season with like no bad losses. I think the worst loss they had was that overtime loss to South Carolina at South Carolina. Even by the end of the regular season, that had kind of been erased from the bad losses column. So it's I don't understand the metric. I'm going to stop talking about it and acting like
I'm just going to say, I ain't never heard Bear Bryant complaining about no net ranking, Paul. You can talk about all these newfangled measurements and metrics and things, but it's almost the A-Day game, Paul. It's time for Bama football. Y'all keep talking about basketball.
If Bear Bryant was alive right now, he would absolutely complain about metrics, and he would complain to the officials about metrics, and they would suddenly erase all of his bad losses.
Hey,
Bear Bryant.
You tell Bear that Bill from Northport said hello.
That's the power of Bear Bryant.
He probably would have appointed himself as the chair of the committee.
Mm-hmm.
Strong agreement, Gray.
And they would have just gone with it. Yep. Yep. And everyone just would have gone with it. So the Ole Miss Rebels come in as an 8 seed over in the South region, going up against Oklahoma. Chandler, real quick, give us because I know you'll have more to say when we get to our next segment, but real quick, the 8 and 9 seeds obviously are like they play each other. So it's kind of just like the flip of the coin. Does it matter to you that Ole Miss is an 8 and not a 9?
No, not really. I mean, because either way, if you're in that 8-9 game, if you win, your consolation prize is playing a 1 seed. But I really thought that was going to have dropped maybe to a 9 or to a 10, but it didn't. So, I mean, it's kind of like we said. It's kind of like you said with State earlier that State's kind of been in that 5 to 7 discussion all season, and Ole Miss. I mean, not all. I mean, obviously, early on, nobody really thought Ole Miss was going to be in this spot. But once it kind of became clear that Ole Miss was trending towards being a tournament team, they kind of stayed in that 8 to 10 range. So not surprised at all that they made it. But maybe the seeding is a little bit higher than I thought it was going to be.
All right. Does anyone here have any strong opinions about Ole Miss as an 8? Doesn't really look like it. I feel like that was pretty much where the projection was. I think everyone feels like they did well. They had kind of locked their postseason. Like it kind of felt like it was halfway through the conference slate. They were one of those teams that had pretty much booked their ticket to the postseason in general.
Right. So it seemed like they had locked it up, and then they skidded for a little bit, and really went. Going into the Missouri game. Lunardi and Palm and those guys were saying that Ole Miss really didn't have anything to worry about, that they were in with 19 wins. But I think that Missouri win kind of solidified everything and made people, not really sweat the SEC tournament at all.
They are there. Florida also in the tournament here as a 10 seed going up against Nevada first, and then the winner of Michigan and Montana. Florida making the tournament kind of had their moments of absolute struggle this season, their moments of success as well. But another one of those teams that, I don't know, a weird one. Florida as a 10, Florida even making the tournament in general. How do we feel about this? Anyone got any strong opinions they want to throw out here about the Florida Gators?
That's all right. I like them as a 10. I think they're going to move into at least week number 2.
Okay,
that's my opinion. But they're all right as a 10. I think they won the last 6 or so. I could be getting that wrong. The last 6 or so of their non-home games. So they're playing all right, and I think they split I think they split the last 8 games or something like that. Heading into the tournament before they got bounced by a school we will not be named, that I will not name, excuse me.
I think that Florida really just played better as the year went on. And so, that they struggled early, had some things happen, and I think maybe they had an injury or two early, and so kind of lost their way. But, beating LSU really solidified their spot. So good for them.
Yep. That was absolutely. It was a good win for them, and an interesting team. They're a weird team this year. Very, very weird. It's like, I don't necessarily see them doing anything this weekend, but I mean, they're there, and so good for them.
Was it last year or the year before that they went to the Elite Eight? I can't it was it's recent.
It was the year before.
Was it the year before? Okay, because I was sitting here thinking this is their 3rd year going to the NCAA under their coach, former Ole Miss standout Mike White.
Yep. Yeah, the legend.
Love
the
it,
legend.
All right. Anyways,
we've got a game that we're going to play now. This is going to be the big chunk of the podcast, and I'm very excited about it because it's going to be a game where we bring in, obviously, the big money name on the podcast tonight, the man himself, the one that we all came here to hear from. The one that we had to take significant cuts out of our own personal money to pay this man to be here tonight. But Keith Harkins, basketball expert, Judge Keith, is going to take us on this next segment where essentially we have to present arguments to Judge Keith and about the which team has a better chance of moving forward. But you know what? I'm just going to let Judge Keith explain his thought process, how he's going to come to his decisions, and then we'll have our first debate, which will actually be between Roe and Chandler. So, Judge Keith, please fill us in.
Gentlemen, we are going to have a very tight and well thought out discussion here.
Always on ROTC.
It's going to be completely subjective and based on whatever I'm feeling at that moment. It's going to be very whimsical.
Subjective and whimsical. Two sides of the same coin, you know.
So I don't want to hear very many facts. I want passion. Now let's get to it.
Oh God.
That's it?
Are you gonna introduce what we're doing? I was gonna turn it entirely over to you, Keith.
Oh, okay. Well, we are going to essentially have a little courtroom drama today, in which different sides of a singular argument will take place in my presence, the expert. We're going to argue over who they think is going to do better in this tournament, and we have predetermined who will make these arguments for said teams. So we're going to jump right into it. We got in a heavyweight matchup of nothing but grit and heart and a little bit of talent. Florida versus Ole Miss. Roe representing the state of Florida, of which he vacations to 3 times a week.
Chomp, chomp. Chomp, chomp. Chomp,
And of
chomp.
course, our resident Ole Miss Rebel expert and Ole
Sam
Miss
Mooney's
Rebel
here? Sam Mooney's here
alumni.
tonight?
Yes.
Local recording legend Sam Mooney. Sadly, could not be on the show tonight. So.
Oh.
Schlondelier Rolandio is going to be representing Ole Miss.
Happy to represent the Basket Bear Sharks. So let's do this.
In the interest of fairness, I'm going to let Roe, who represents Florida, to go first.
Okay. So do you want me to go right now?
Absolutely.
All right, here.
Who is going to do better in this tournament? Remember, subjectivity.
Subjectively, well, you're a Florida fan, so I'm going to subjectively assume that you would pick the Gators. Do I need to make any more argument?
I am the consummate professional. I will have zero bias in these
All right.
proceedings.
Well, let's talk about the pathway forward. How about that? Let's look at the first game. We have the Florida Gators versus the Nevada Wolfpack. They meet Thursday in the first round of the college basketball NCAA tournament at the Wells Fargo Arena. Florida Gators enter this tournament having split their last 8 games. The Florida Gators are averaging 68.3 points on a 42.7% shooting, allowing 63.6 points on 42% shooting.
I'm going to stop you right there. We've had way too many facts. I specifically said I want no facts.
Okay.
You have been awarded 0 points and 1.5 teddy bears. Chandler, go.
I gave you the. Oh my God, this is
my counterpoint to Roe's argument before I present anything positive about the Rebels is Roe just mentioned Florida's opponent is the Nevada Wolfpack, and I happen to know a song about the Wolfpack. And that song says that you never turn your back on the Wolfpack, because if you do, you just might wind up in a body bag. So, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Sting at one point, Conan, that's an unbeatable roster. Florida's represented in WWE by Titus O'Neil, the dude who is only famous for tripping as he's running into the ring in the Royal Rumble. Come on, like get out of here with that. So look, Ole Miss is going to do better because Ole Miss has guards, and this is a guard-oriented tournament. So that's all.
Ro, would you like an opportunity to
Smirching the good name of the Wolfpack? What are you, NW Hollywood here?
If we're talking about songs and we're talking about Gainesville, Florida, mind you, there was a recent loss of a one Tom Petty just this last year. So I'm offended. I don't know about you, Keith, but I will not back down because that is an egregious assault that just happened that you allowed in this courtroom. All right.
Well, look, Ole Miss is in this tournament. These players for the first time. So in a lot of ways, they're learning to fly. And I don't think this is going to be Mary Jane's last dance for the Rebels.
Counselors, I will give you each 30 seconds to wrap up your arguments. Ro, you go.
Chomp chomp in the swamp. Yeah.
That is that's incredibly moving.
Do I even have to respond to that? I mean,
Chandler,
come on.
you have 30 seconds.
I'll just go back to what I said earlier. Don't turn your back on the Wolfpack because you might wind up in a body bag.
I see no other course of action but to award Chandler all points.
Oh, God. I disagree.
Next up, as we move forward, we have.
Can I just say I feel dumb for having even like researched basketball before recording tonight.
I didn't know the direction. I didn't know the direction Ro was going to go there. I hit back with what I had. Ole Miss has got
I
guards.
tried to give facts. I was trying to give facts. It wasn't going my way, so I was put on the spot.
You're right. I did make the appeal to emotion. That was on me.
No,
really
Keith said he wanted emotion. That's all Keith said.
You know what? Feelings don't care about your facts. Okay, so shut up.
Sorry.
Sorry. I apologize, Judge Keith. This is your show.
Thank you so much. Next up on our docket today, here, ladies and gentlemen, if you've not yet gone to the bathroom, please do so while you are seated. Mississippi State University.
Wait, what?
That's right.
Did you suggest to go to the bathroom on ourselves?
I can tell just by looking at all our little screens down here that both Gray and I took that advice to heart.
Yep.
I'm ready.
I did
to go.
suggest, in fact, to poop your big boy pants. We are going to now be hit by the Mississippi State
The smooth
Bulldogs.
criminal.
Yes. And the Smooth Criminals, Auburn.
Can we mention Michael Jackson again yet? Is that
No.
I don't.
We need to wait at least 60 years.
Mm.
Those are the rules, man. I don't make them
All
up. Mississippi State University is represented by our own sweet darling Gray.
Oh my! All right.
Sweet
The
Georgia
Auburn-
Gray over here.
The Auburn war Tiger Plainsmen
Yeah,
are represented
Warplanes.
by the great bearded wonder Joseph Craven.
That's me. The only person on this podcast that has a beard. The only one.
Nobody else has one.
No one else does.
Now, in light of recent events, I will allow some facts to be stated, but let's not get carried away like Roe did. That I don't think I can take another one of those assaults on my brain.
I think this
I'll keep
judge
the
is
facts to a minimum.
unfit for office.
Well, you can take that up in the next midterm elections, Roe.
Ugh.
Since
I'm going to get Russia to hack that election so that I win again.
Since we are mostly in Mississippi and Georgia doesn't count,
Yeah.
We're going to let the visitors, Auburn, represented by the Mississippi guy, go first.
It's just so confusing.
Yeah,
So-
that was strange. If I remember correctly, I live here, so I'm going to go ahead and start talking.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, the Auburn Tigers right now, is there a hotter team in the SEC than the team that just won the SEC conference tournament? I submit that there is not. Auburn is a team that has thrived off of going on hot streaks more than any other team in the league. And that is very evident by their performance in the postseason. but just their team structure. Those fools shoot threes constantly. And if they start hitting any of them, they start jumping up in a lead. If Auburn is on a streak, and it's very hard to cool them down, and right now they are on a streak. So if you look at their first couple of matchups, I mean, New Mexico State, I don't think has the firepower to put up with them. And if they go on to the next, to the second round, they're going up against Kansas. This is not a great Kansas team this year. This is a Kansas team that, we're used to Kansas being Big 12 champs just all the time. Kansas was third in the conference and lost the conference championship game. So I think it's also a pretty favorable first a couple of rounds for Auburn. That's why I think Auburn could make a longer stretch, make it to the second weekend as one of the 2 5 seeds from the SEC. They're playing hot. They got a decent looking first couple of rounds. And more importantly than anything else, they got that Bruce Pearl douchebag factor. They've got the biggest douche in the SEC as their head coach. And that's right. I'm saying bigger douche than John Calipari. Like, Bruce Pearl is a douche. And he's their coach, and he's going to douche his way into the third round, into the second weekend of the tournament, I think. So there you go. Auburn wins off of douchebaggery. I yield.
Gray?
Okay. So you're talking about Bruce Pearl, huh? Head coach of the Auburn Tiger Plainsmen Eagles of War. So I'm gonna say the words of Bruce Pearl that he gave in a speech to his own team the other day.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
You guys remember any of the Florida coaches calling you? Did they call you? Did they recruit you? I don't think so. They didn't recruit scrubs like you, did they? Assistant coaches? Y'all remember Florida calling these guys? No, these guys are scrubs. Auburn's a team full of scrubs. That's first of all. They're going to flame out. Speaking of flames, Mississippi State Bulldogs are playing the Liberty Flames in the first round against the 12 seed. The Liberty Flames. Now, Liberty, they have 6 losses on the year. That's pretty, not too shabby coming from mid-major. What was one of those 6 losses to? It was to the Vanderbilt Commodores by 9 points. The 0-19 against the SEC Vanderbilt Commodores. Mississippi State has a resounding victory in Nashville over the Vanderbilt Commodores. So I'm going to have Mississippi State moving on to the next round against either Virginia Tech or St. Louis. They'll play either the Hokies or the Billikens. I don't know what either one of those things are. I'll have to Wikipedia. So they will move on. And like you said earlier about guards in the NCAA tournament and how it's a guard-oriented tournament, there is not a single guard in the SEC that has had more of an impact on his team than Quindary Weatherspoon. This tournament is about guards. And,
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Had a bug in my throat. Sorry.
You passed it on to me. Excuse me. This tournament is about guards and hero moments, and I believe that a player like Quindary Weatherspoon can lead his team and be the hero after the team has been in an NCAA tournament drought of but now it is at 10 years. So it's a whole decade. There's not a team in the SEC that is hungrier for an NCAA tournament run than the Bulldogs. And I believe that somebody like Q can make a little bit of a run. Now, in the Sweet 16, they potentially have a run-in with the Duke Blue Devils. I believe that it is redemption time for the Bulldogs, as I think what would it have been?
2005.
Yeah, 2005. They got bounced out by the Duke Blue Devils in a horribly officiated game that I watched in the parlor of Providence Presbyterian Church during the night service with Joseph Craven's dad as he brought his rabbit ear antenna and small television into the parlor. So thinking it's redemption time, I believe that the Bulldogs will make an Elite 8 run, and we'll see what happens. But that's what I think is going to happen.
I just want to go on record as saying old Steve Craven, my father, was notorious for taking that old battery-powered, rabbit-eared, handheld, portable television to church constantly. In particular, he took it to the wedding of one of my older brother's friends, Tony Peacock, and sat in one of the back rows watching a football game on the little TV, and had everyone that was on the row behind him leaning in to like keep an eye on what was going on in the game. They were like hiding antennas behind people's heads so that people would look over and notice. Old Steve was notorious for that nonsense.
That reminds
Tony
me.
Peacock.
That reminds me of a story of somebody got married at Redeemer, and it was during some big state game. And one of my state buddies texted me, was like, "Hey, what's the Wi-Fi password at Redeemer? Because this pastor's just going way too long." He said he preached like a 45-minute sermon before the wedding even started. So like I had a whole bunch. Like I texted Baskin, and he gave me the password.
That sounds about right. That might have been a wedding I was in. Actually, I think I know which one you're talking about. I accidentally said Tony Peacock. I meant Alan Peacock, Tony's cousin. Tony was a guy that I went to college with and then lived with.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when you guys lived with Tony.
Yep.
By the way, Chandler, you are not allowed to do that at my wedding.
Well, seeing as
he's going to do it anyway.
I'm going to have a very different position. I wasn't even at that wedding. I'm officiating this one. So
No. Like that's what I mean. You are not allowed to preach for 45 minutes.
Oh yeah,
you shouldn't allow him to preach at all.
This is probably true. I mean, if you've been to any of our other friends' wedding, you know exactly what I'm going to say. So
I will fight you in front of all 6,000 people.
Is what brings us together today.
I will throw out one little thing to keep in mind with the Liberty Mississippi State game, and
I'm sorry, all right. You got to make it good because you're not supposed to be talking.
I'm just saying. Remember that there is someone on Liberty's campus who not only has basketball coaching experience. There's someone on Liberty's campus who not only has basketball coaching experience, but has experience in beating Mississippi State. You know, the wins may get vacated later, but
yeah, I was going to say he only had, I think, one victory over Mississippi State, if I remember the win
Jerry
totals.
Falwell?
Jerry Falwell Jr.
Jerry Falwell Jr.
If you look at the now corrected record books, looks like there's only one win.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very, very, very good and tight and subjective, but just kind of just tone it down with the facts a little bit. All right?
Sorry. Yeah, I realize that now, sir.
Very well said. I am, however, going to have to award victory to a one Mr. Joseph Craven Esquire.
Yes.
Strictly because Greg quoted Bruce Pearl, and he's just the biggest in the entire world. I probably should have stopped you and just disqualified you then, but we were entertained. Yeah.
I'm sure it could not have been easy on Gray to quote Bruce Pearl anyway.
No.
True.
Also, I do give credit
enough
to Brian Tyree as well. He means a lot to his team.
No, yeah, Q is also. I mean, like that was obviously not a shot at anybody. Q is amazing.
Sure, it wasn't.
Next up, the Battle of Appalachia. Kentucky, Tennessee. Next on NBC Sports. Kentucky, represented by the Honorable and sensory deprivated row hunter.
How you doing?
Gray with a shot at redemption.
This is a matchup of the guys that lost in the first round.
Representing
Shut up.
Okay,
Tennessee, former hibernation spot of one Bruce Pearl. Since Gray was mauled to death in the last round by his own quote, we'll start with him.
Gotcha. Well, Tennessee this season, for a lot of the season, they have been projected as a 1 seed, and deservingly so. They didn't finish the deal off today against Auburn, but hey, who knows? They might have already known their fate. I think that Rick Barnes has been waiting for his whole career just to be coaching the team with the right shade of orange. And I believe that orange is the Tennessee disgusting, nasty orange they sport. And I think that it is his time. He has a team full of linebackers that are just ready to maul people and know that they can get away with it. So they are going to just have a field day with all these guards that they're going to be coming up against. They are going to – let me see if I can pull up the bracket and see what their draw is.
Colgate in the first round.
Colgate.
And then the winner of Cincinnati and Iowa in the second round.
Gotcha. Well, they're going to handle the toothpaste. We're going to go on to Cincinnati and Iowa.
I wouldn't be so sure about Tennessee fans handling toothpaste.
It'll be the first time on record. It'll be incredible.
Oh!
Mattresses and couches are one thing. Toothpaste is something different.
Let's see. If they can get past Colgate and they wind up playing, let's say, a Cincinnati Bearcat team that Mississippi State handled earlier on in the season. And Mississippi State is not extremely physical, and they still pulled off a kind of grinded out win against Cincinnati. Tennessee is probably the most physical team in the country. They get on to the Sweet 16 against probably, let's just take Purdue, the 3 seed. Purdue, they're a Big Ten school full of white dudes that are going to get mauled by guys like Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams. So I can see them making a deep run of the tournament. Virginia, on the top end of the bracket, the 1 seed, they lost to who was it? USMBC CNN last year, the 16 seed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the same players, same coach. They're going to flame out. Tennessee's making a run to the Final Four, and I will let you know their fate in the next segment of the show. But I believe that Rick Barnes has been waiting for his right shade of orange, and he's got it now in Rocky Top.
Row.
I want to talk to you about my guy, John Calamari. All right. And in order to talk about him, I want to talk about something called the halo effect. Are you familiar with this term, Judge?
Yes, I am.
All right. The halo effect is for those who don't understand, it's the tendency for an impression created in one area to influence the opinion in another area. All right. Let's talk about my guy, John Calipari. First and foremost, if I talk like Cousin Vinny, from my cousin Vinny, I'm liable to win this argument based on the movie that I watched on Saturday. Hilarious movie. You should watch it, but he's from New Jersey.
It plays 24/7 on TBS. It is always on TBS at all times.
Judge, are you familiar with John Calipari?
Yes, I am. Now, counselor, I want to warn you about being condescending towards me, Your Honor.
No,
for it.
No, sir, Your Honor. First and foremost, when he left the University of Massachusetts just before sanctions were coming, he knew exactly what was coming, and he left. He made racist comments towards a reporter in the NBA, called the reporter a Mexican idiot, and I quote, during the episode, Calipari called Garcia a Mexican idiot, for which he did apologize, but still, the apology was not real. He also knew his star recruit in Memphis, A1 Derrick Rose. Are you familiar with this man?
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't take the SATs. Now, furthermore, if I go in and I look at the bracket, and we pull up the bracket here in the Midwest region, Kentucky faces the winner of Wofford and Seton Hall. Now, mind you, Seton Hall did beat Kentucky earlier this season. However, different team now. Then, if they beat Seton Hall or Wofford, which they probably will, they go on to take the winner of probably, I don't know, Houston and Iowa State. And then, maybe, just maybe, they're going to win that one and then face North Carolina in the Elite Eight. The halo effect is something that you can look at it in basketball, just to reintroduce that piece of evidence. You can look at it in basketball with refereeing. Referees in general are the most biased, most horrible people on the face of planet Earth. And I don't know who would ever want to be one. Only sociopaths who want to change the game of young men playing basketball. They're also paid. John Calipari pays the refs. This is a fact. This is indisputable evidence of that all over the NCAA and a history from every job that he ever goes to. First and foremost, and I hope you take my comments into consideration, but I would like to state for the record, Your Honor, I hate John Calipari with a passion. I hate rooting for him. I only want to win this argument, and I hope my defendant here of Kentucky goes to jail for a lifetime.
Well,
what?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I thought we were supposed to be convincing.
Yeah, what the hell just happened?
In favor of your team. So
I cannot defend this man any longer. I can't do it.
That being said, I still have a really difficult time awarding any sort of positive reinforcement towards Tennessee.
Ooh.
It's rough. But in the interest of being unbiased and fair, I will award to Tennessee, since Roe made no sense for the last 5 minutes.
No idea what he said.
Yeah, I didn't follow.
Not a clue.
I did appreciate the effort and the spot-on accent.
Yeah, it was very highly accurate. Thank you for that.
I am now hungry for salami. Moving on to the championship game, the showdown. I actually didn't realize I was doing this, but I set up a third place game and a championship game.
We did it totally by accident. It's amazing.
LSU, the mighty, mighty Bengals. We are the Bengals, the mighty, mighty Bengals, represented by one Shalom Delaire Rodriguez Skablochiat.
I feel like I have to censor that. Do I have to censor that?
This whole episode is going to have to be censored.
Well, sure.
This is far and away the worst episode we've ever done.
No, this is one of the best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Those words are interchangeable on this show.
Anyway, LSU will of course be going up against a very tough opponent, one that has been their foil for centuries. Honestly, their own cataclysmic collapse.
Oh, I thought you were going to say academics because they're going up against an Ivy League school in the first round.
Right. Well,
LSU's biggest rival, academics.
Academics, federal corruption scandal, one of the
prostitutes,
all the above.
Bourbon.
Yep.
Hey, that's our friend. That's all of our friends.
It's your friend. It's not LSU's friend. They throw it at people. Anyway, their own self collapse, of course, will be represented by Joseph Craven. We will start, of course, with Chandler, who represents the Louisiana State University Tigers. Chandler,
look, while I personally object to the existence of Louisiana and LSU, first, the smell of corn dogs, it really is wonderful. I mean, they smell like them, but I mean, look, who doesn't love a corn dog? But here's the thing, okay? This is the classic. This is the classic heel maneuver. This is classic Ric Flair stuff. That LSU is coming in as the styling, profiling, talent-laden, three-point shooting, slam dunking group of just outlaws. Like, who even cares? Like, whatever. We're breaking the rules. You know we're breaking the rules. When we hired Will Wade, you knew we were breaking the rules. It's like the same. It's like whenever Ric Flair would bring Arn Anderson to the ring, you knew something was going down, and nobody could stop it. And so they're just going to go in, you know, 4 fingers in the air, 4 horsemen, gonna ride on them, and they're just gonna destroy people. I think they've got like all the talent is there illegally, but it is very talented. It's very good, and that's going to go well for them. So I think that just whoever they play is just going to have a hard time matching up with the talent. And you know what? Maybe it gets thrown out later. Maybe we get the dusty finish there where it looks like, you know, the good guy wins and then the ref comes in and reverses it. I don't know how it's going to work out, but yeah, LSU's going deep.
Joseph?
Well, Will Wade is not really a factor right now for LSU. And I don't recall him, and I could be wrong on this. I am curious. Did he have like some sort of issue coming out of VCU that made him a shady hire? I don't know that. So we could talk about that later on. But Will Wade is not an issue with LSU right now on account of the fact that, you know, he had been removed for indefinitely suspended, whatever it may be. All that to say, LSU right now is they're under investigation. That's got to be weighing very heavily. They didn't know one of their main players. I'm forgetting his name now off the top of my head, but didn't know if he was going to be playing.
Javonte Smart.
Thank you, Javonte Smart. I can only remember Smart, and it made me think of Keith Smart, and I was like, And anyway, so Javonte Smart didn't even know if he'd be playing in the tournament due to these allegations, investigations, so on and so forth. So you've got that you obviously have to deal with. There's a lot of mental burden on the LSU players of knowing that, hey, you know what are we even playing for at this point? Because we could all be, season could be vacated. We could all be like in trouble in general for like breaking rules. We could be suspended, whatever it may be. Maybe some of them are thinking, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and jump ship, go try to be a pro right after this season. I don't know if this means much to their players. Even if that were not a factor, though, LSU would anyone like to just guess off the top of their heads how many overtime games LSU had to play this year? Just guess. Somebody throw out a number.
6.
All right. Well, Roe, I guess, knew that or looked it up earlier.
No, I didn't. I had no clue. That was just guessed.
Oh, no. They actually had 7. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I overlooked one that was off the screen. They had 7 overtime games this year. 7. They had an overtime loss to Florida State early in the year, an overtime win at Arkansas, overtime win at Missouri, overtime win at Mississippi State, overtime win at Kentucky, overtime loss against Florida, overtime win at Tennessee versus Tennessee, overtime victory against Florida on March 6th. They've had 7 different overtime games. LSU's not a team that really all the time or very often wins well. I think we kind of mentioned this earlier when we were talking about them as a 3 seed. I think maybe Gray brought it up, but LSU kind of has this tendency to not really win super well. And you combine a team that maybe is a little lucky. You combine with the fact that they're being investigated by the federal government. And I don't know. That kind of seems to me like they might be cashing out pretty early if I had to put money on it, which I will right now. I got 5 on it. Ro, that was for you.
Thank
on LSU cashing out early.
The counterpoint I would make is that when you're talking about LSU, you are talking about a school who has before won a national championship in a sport where in either 2 or 3 games they played, they were actually losing at the end of regulation. But just weird, again, Bayou Swamp Magic kind of helps them out. So
that's true. They do have the Swamp Magic, and the Swamp Magic helped them out. I mean, they won, 5 of those 7 overtime games? I think they lost to Florida, and they lost to Florida State. So really, it's just, are they playing any teams from the state of Florida in that part of the bracket? Because if not, then they're okay,
Is Liberty in Florida?
Liberty's not, but they would have to. All right, I'm calling it. I want to see an LSU Liberty matchup because it would happen in the Elite 8, and that would be hilarious.
Where actually is Liberty? I don't even know.
Liberty is in Virginia.
Oh,
yeah, because Liberty used to send me a lot of college information because they somehow got my address when I was coming out of high school, and I was
they wanted me to play soccer there when I was in high school, and I said no.
Yeah, Lynchburg, Virginia. No, Lynchburg. No.
Yeah, I think it's in Lynchburg. I think you're right.
Why does that seem too fitting? Anyway.
Oh gosh.
Hey, Zinger.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your impassioned arguments. In the interest of anarchy, I will award to the LSU self-collapse.
That's actually what I'm pulling for. So
I think that's what everybody's pulling for secretly, and not so secretly.
But I'm legitimately pulling for the LSU collapse after they win a national championship. Win the national championship, do something crazy, and then have everything just stripped away, and Will Wade go to jail and all that other stuff.
So not really a collapse. You're just calling for the hammer to come down from the heavens.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I can going full Mjolnir on them.
I can get behind that. I'm touched, Judge Keith, that you ruled in favor of me in this argument and in this entire contest.
Congratulations on your hard-fought victory.
Yeah, it didn't take much effort.
Congratulations on your adequately fought victory.
Go to that gator swamp, chomp, chomp.
At the end, isn't that every victory just adequately fought?
If you're LSU, yes, and you're 7 overtimes.
See, it all comes around.
Hey. Oh man. Yeah, LSU was the tricky one when we were trying to organize this game and kind of figuring out what we were going to do with them. But at the end of the day, they are their own worst enemy. So
This game felt like Super Smash Brothers to me, and it was not fun because I'm not good at that game.
I was going to say
I didn't win anything.
You know,
it felt
talking
like
about,
Smash. It felt like Smash to me too because I just wiped the floor with everybody. Like I was
that's
Yeah, you were
Smash.
Kirby.
and that's what like talking about, you know, LSU being their own worst enemy. I mean, how many times has an LSU fan had to say, you know, can we forget about the things I said when I was drunk? You know, they didn't mean to call you that.
Sounds like a terrible Garth Brooks song, dude.
So please tell me. Please tell me.
Please
it was lit, guys. Good Lord.
I saw him
lit.
at Jubilee Jam one time. He was in 11th grade.
Nice. I saw lit outside of my hotel when I was in St. Louis to go to a soccer match about 4 years ago. And I like yelled from my window, "Shut up. I'm trying to sleep," as they were doing a concert.
Dude, somebody on an LSU sports team somewhere definitely crawled in through the window drunk one night.
Someone on an LSU sports team somewhere is definitely in the band lit.
we are a lit cover band. Fire emoji.
Are we starting a lit cover band now? Because I think we just did. I think it was brilliant.
We just
Oh
did.
God, I want
All
out.
right.
My Creed
Everyone
cover
call.
band.
All right. Everyone announce the instrument that you will play in our lit cover band. I'll start with you, Chandler. Go.
Banjo.
All right, Gray. What role do you play?
The bass player in the background. I don't know.
Keith.
Panicked when he said it.
Keith.
The harp.
Oh shoot, that sounds good. Ro.
Harmonica.
Very nice. And I will be the front man, but I will only sing harmonies.
There is no guitar in this whole setup.
If you only sing the high harmony, I'm in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We had me and my old friend Brandon Spell had this joke in high school where we would sing punk harmony to any song that was going on, and it was just where you just found a random note that was higher than where everyone else was singing. And we did a lot at youth group, and it was not appreciated.
Higher.
Yeah, just a higher pitched note. Didn't have to really fit. Just had to
Hey,
be.
Mom,
somebody
there's
take
someone
the
in my window.
But you had to sing it very nasally because that was, punk rock.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I love punk rock. Thank you guys for listening to Running Out the Clock, the world's foremost early 2000s punk rock podcast.
Something very wrong.
Whew. Hey, let's wrap this thing up by talking maybe just a little bit about, I don't know, the tournament in general. In particular, I want you guys to tell me who you think is going to win it all and why. If you had to make a national championship prediction right now, who is it and why? As always, alphabetical order. Chandler, start us off.
In the words of the old hymn, we are marching to Zion. Beautiful, beautiful Zion. Not Duke, just Zion.
Triggered.
Triggered.
Gray, how about you?
As much as I would hate for this to happen, I kind of have to tend to agree with the Zion testament. But Duke, when they're at full strength, is really good. However, I mean they do have losses to I don't know, to some teams in this tournament, even when at full strength. I don't know. I just have that gut feeling about Duke. Their draw isn't too bad. Being the number one overall seed. I just don't have any faith in teams like Virginia. They haven't really done it before, and they always tend to flame out. I don't know. That's just kind of my gut. One thing that I will say, this isn't my national championship pick. This is kind of an aside. The one potential matchup that I'm really looking forward to is potentially the round of 32 game, Kentucky and Wofford. I think that would be a super, super fun game to pay attention to. Wofford's just a really, really fun team to watch after seeing them earlier in the year. But yeah, I think Duke, they just kind of seem to have it all going for them.
All right, Keith, the basketball expert. That's how Rod Barnes used to say it.
Rod Barnes. God
Rod
bless that
Barnes.
man.
Rod Barnes used to say basketball.
Cal State Bakersfield, baby.
I love it. Anyway, Keith, the basketball expert. What you got?
I'm going to go Virginia.
Ooh.
Going with Virginia. Ooh, I like it. Any reason why? I'm just guessing that you don't have a reason, but I want to hear it.
No particular reason. I felt like they had a pretty good year, and just something other than Duke, because that's boring as hell.
Virginia had a pretty good year last year, too.
Yeah, they had a really good year last year. Yeah. All right, Ro.
Yeah, unfortunately, the conspiracy theorists are right. This tournament is already over with a one Zion Williamson and his unbroken shoes. There shall be no more shoe controversies. If Zion Williamson gets injured this tournament, then the NCAA March Madness is over as we know it. If he wins this tournament, then everybody will forgive all of the atrocities of the NCAA, and we'll want to do this again next year. So Zion, we go with Zion, as Chandler said. We march with Zion. So or to Zion. So yeah, Duke all the way.
Oh man, I just don't see how such a freshman-heavy team can win a title. Personally, and so I would go against Duke in that, because one of the things that we always say that, as y'all were pointing out earlier, guards, win the tournament, and that's very, very true. But a lot of times, veterans win the tournament. I mean, Kentucky and John Calipari's only title that they've gotten was when the NBA was in lockout. So a lot of their top freshmen stuck around for an extra year, and they had one more year of experience, and then they actually were able to win a title there. That was kind of one of the deciding factors. But the only team that I can really remember being a very freshman-heavy team that then went on to win a national title was Duke in 2014 and 15. So if there was ever going to be a freshman-heavy team to do it, it would have to be a Mike Krzyzewski coach team, I think. I don't think any other freshman-based team could do it. That being said, I think this is a year in which they collapse under the pressure a little bit. I would like to see a bit of a redemption story out of Virginia to make up for the past year, and they've got a little bit more experience under their belt. They're still fairly young, but most of their players on their team are at the very least redshirt sophomores and up. That being said, I really like this Gonzaga team. I think they're going to be a team to look out for, with Rui Hachimura in particular. I'm just going to blindly say Gonzaga. This is their year. Spoiler alert.
There's too much Adam Morrison going on in Gonzaga still.
Spoiler alert. I say that every year about Gonzaga.
I mean, at some point though, like, you're going to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I'm not even sure Duke makes it to the Final Four out of their region.
Yeah, they got to go up against a powerhouse called Mississippi State.
Oh man, hey, real quick, let's just say, all right, we didn't really discuss doing this, so I'm going to put you on the spot. But if you had to pick one SEC team that made it to the tournament to go the farthest out of these 7, who do you think it would be? Does that sound like a fair question?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily saying that you have to predict where each single one of them goes and how far they go. Just pick one of them that you think has the most success here. Who is it? And you know what? Let's do both of them. We'll wrap it up like this. Most success, the one who flames out most disappointingly. Does that sound good?
Sounds fair.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Give you guys just a moment to think about it. As we do that, going to plug a few things, of course. Running out the clock, we're not always the best on social media, but we do have a Facebook page where all of these links to all the important things get sent out. So make sure you're following the ROTC Facebook page. I guess I really should have looked it up before I got here to remember what it was actually called. I think it's just called Running Out the Clock.
Yes, it's called Running Out the Sports.
Running Out the Sports, presented by Young Sheldon. Running Up the Clock is the name of it. You'll know it when you see it. But follow that to keep posted on anything. As always, you could find us on all of the major podcast providers. I mean, if you just listen by downloading off iTunes, if you're on Podbean, where we ourselves are hosted, whatever it is, drop us a positive review and a comment. It always helps out when people are looking for podcasts, sports podcasts to find. We need to get out there a little bit more. So there's the little plugs right there. Hopefully it gave you guys enough time to think. Chandler, I'm going to turn it over to you. Who does the best? Who does the worst out of all the teams here?
Oh, man. I want to think of somebody else to say it because I want to be original here, but I think Kentucky does the best. Just because I think they've got the best combination of talent and kind of not experience, but I mean, I think they've got I think LSU is probably every bit as talented as Kentucky, but I think Kentucky's better coached. Cal kind of builds those teams for those runs. And even if they're not necessarily winning the championship every year, like Kentucky people would want, more often than not, they're Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four. So I'll say Kentucky goes the furthest. And then just because I don't know anything about their matchup, and I think that I am concerned, like as a fan, I'm concerned that maybe the moment gets a little too big. I think probably Ole Miss gets bounced in the first round.
Gray, what do you think? Best and worst from the SEC teams?
I think Tennessee does the best. Their draw really isn't all that bad in their region. I think they'll have some favorable matchups, especially in the first and second round. And then who flames out the earliest? Gosh, well, I hate to say it. I think State might, just because I'm a pessimist.
Sound like a State fan.
I'm a pessimist.
Like every single State fan.
Yeah, it's in our blood.
It's in our blood.
I mean, it fits because you are playing the Flames, so
Yeah, we are playing the Flames.
Well
I think our depth might hit us a little bit. I think we might lose our legs a little bit too early, and I don't know. That's my gut. I hope I'm wrong.
Keith, how about you?
I think your answers are the two teams that were in the SEC championship game. I think that, of course, as an expert who is very much so up to date on basketball, I think Auburn goes the furthest, and I think the Tennessee is your early out.
All right, Ro.
Yeah, so I am going to say that the Mississippi State Bulldogs will go the furthest because this is 10 years coming in the making, and I'm feeling that Sweet 16. And I think all the other ones flame out, so that's what I think.
Every single one of them.
This reminds me of Rose's prediction for the football season.
Hey, look, when you put us in the dance, we like to do a little ballet. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Interesting to get
Hit you with them twiddle toes, baby.
Can we suspend him for whatever we're doing next?
No, because that was pure gold. Hey, you get the gold star for the podcast tonight. You get the gold stars.
Thank you. Let me pirouette into a spin. All right. All right. And I think that Ole Miss is the one that flames out so fast. Yeah. It's just got personal.
I mean, I've already said it, but sure.
Yeah. But I am. What's another ballet move? Spin move into the Final Four.
What's another ballet move? Ballet jump.
Ballet jump.
I
got a plie into the national championship final.
Golly.
The very technical dance term, spin move.
Yeah.
I do love the fact that Roe threw out the words twiddle toes.
Right, I know. Because of that last bit, he was good for a while. Because of that last bit, Rose's been muted.
Back in the game as I plie back into this podcast.
Now he's over here standing.
I'm about to just eject him from the podcast entirely. Oh man. I'm gonna say Tennessee, I think, has the most favorite. If Tennessee can get away with playing some bully ball like they like to do, I don't think that the tournament refs are going to be as kind to Tennessee as SEC refs tend to be, because SEC refs are morons. And I feel like the tournament refs are going to be probably not allow as much raw physicality as Tennessee likes to play. But if they get even a shred of that, then there's not one of those teams in there that can match up with their physicality, and they're going to have, a stretch to the Sweet 16, Elite 8 waiting for them. And I think one of the teams that flames out the fastest, I don't think Ole Miss potentially losing to Virginia in the second round is like a flaming out thing. That's just a bad byproduct of being an 8 seed, whatever. I don't think that's a negative thing.
Well, and to be fair too, like just making the tournament qualifies not flaming out because of what their expectations were.
Right, exactly. Monumental year for them, and first year head coach Kermit Davis. But I think the team that flames out the hardest, at least, is Kentucky. I think they get to the second round and a team like Wofford defeats them. I think this is an okay, not great Kentucky team that got lucky quite a bit. And I mean, they did muscle their way through some moments, and they did grow as a team. They had some of those freshmen that really developed into more leadership roles as the season went on, which is classic of a John Calipari team. But I just think that they're still not that great of a team. And if they're not careful, Wofford is a hot shooting team, enough of one where they will, make a splash against them. And I feel like that would be the biggest disappointment.
I could easily see Wofford's coach giving that rousing Bruce Pearl speech about Kentucky. And I could easily see that happening.
I retract the gold star that was given to Rowe earlier for referencing Bruce Pearl needlessly. I have muted him, and Rowe, I'm sorry, but I'm about to have to eject you, buddy. You should have known not to bring up.
Rowe is on review for next time.
You're on review for next week. I'm sorry, man, but you got to go. Have a good night, Rowe. We love you. You knew what you were doing.
Back to his sensory deprivation chamber.
Oh, that is actually the end of the episode, so he's not missing anything. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Running Up the Clock. Great. Thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to some March Madness.
Oh,
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I'm sorry you had to sit through all of this, Gray, by the way. I just feel really bad now.
Don't apologize. Every experience, you learn something.
Those are the kindest words anyone's ever shared with us. I'm your friend Joseph Craven. The rest of these guys don't matter. We'll see you next time.